Good evening everyone, welcome back to Tom Plays Europa Universalis 4 for absolute beginners. We are back with England and our invasion of France is not going great. I mean, yeah, it could still be fine. I was thinking losing our entire army was probably more of an issue than I made out last time. Anyway, let's frantically try and rebuild it. I'm actually thinking now that we should try to hire mercenaries when we can, but not up here. I'm thinking maybe if the board falls, we will hire some down there. But depending how things go, I mean, a lot of it is going to depend on our allies now. So at the moment, they've got a high war enthusiasm, but it's dropping. It's really dropping. Austria's wasn't very high to start with. Castile's has gone down. We need to keep an eye on Switzerland because we do want to get Switzerland to pull out if we can. This is unimportant. But yeah, we probably need to be willing to make peace while the going's good if we lose any allies. I mean, at the moment France isn't willing to give us anything, which I don't blame them for because we don't have an army. On the plus side, if we do hire some mercenaries, it will count as us having an army. See, if I was sure that they couldn't attack us there, well, it might be worth hiring some mercenaries there, but we'd still get swamped. And there isn't anywhere else we can get them, so we really need to wait for this castle to fall in order to get anywhere. So in the meantime, had a bit of time to think about what could have done better. So one thing I'm thinking, which is what I'm actually thinking of in the mercenaries now, is I've never actually tried this because attacking from the north has always worked quite well for me because France has to divide their attention between us and Castile. In fact, thinking back, usually they go and attack Castile. There goes Paris, there goes our war score. I've still got the casus belli though, which is the main reason we took it. But yeah, this time they attacked us and Castile didn't take advantage of it and basically sat there doing nothing. So what might have worked better, in hindsight, is if we'd actually sent our armies down here because we've got the manoeuvrability of the boats. We could have had our armies with Castile's. Hopefully with Castile we would have had a force that France couldn't really take on, or at least couldn't easily stomp. And hopefully Castile would have been more willing to get involved, or if not, we could have just sat there with Castile doing nothing while France took these lands, and then at least we wouldn't have lost our army. Okay, this is bad news. I've been expecting this since the start of the game. The Lollard Heresy. This is basically going to cause a bunch of uprisings. However, we can't afford to let them be because we will lose papal influence every year, and people will like us less, including the Pope, which is far too risky. So we have to choose stop the heretics, but I'm going to have to move our armies together. Probably start building them all in Kent, even though that's not that realistic, but we'll be building them sequentially anyway, so from a gameplay perspective that's perfectly doable. I'm going to avoid London, even though it has the castle, because they often rise up in London. I mean, Kent's possible as well, but I don't want the heretics rising up and stomping our army. Okay, so this is something also bad. We can either lose 10 diplomatic power, which honestly isn't that much, or we can say they should have stayed at home. I would say give them support. Always give them support, certainly for 10 diplomatic power. It's definitely worth it, and we do need money. Okay, Laborde has fallen, so let us just look at mercenaries again. So, production screen, recruit mercenaries. There tend to be 3 armies that don't come with a leader, and you can usually hire these anywhere in the world. They're different sizes, I'm thinking we should try and get this independent one. I'm not sure why the Grand Company has fewer troops than the independent one, but I think we should get the biggest one and be as sure as we can. So we're going to take a third loan, which is risky. And the second we take the third loan, we suddenly can't hire the independent company anymore. Okay, let's take a fourth loan. I hope that means we can hire them. Oh, we can. Brilliant. Okay, so these, as well as costing more up front, are going to cost more all the way through, so we're in danger of utterly bankrupting ourselves here. But to some extent, that's what you need to do. If you're going to take France out, you need to take risks. And one of those risks is bankruptcy. So I'm really hoping this mercenary army is going to make all the difference. We're going to give them our good leader, and we're going to join our allies. It looked like they were going to siege that castle just then. Are they not going to siege that castle? Because our army has really low morale, it would be a very bad idea for us to get too close to France. See, France is already starting on Austria. Just checking if we can make peace. Okay, it looks like Portugal is sieging the castle at least. So sieging a castle is the best thing we can do with them while the morale's low. Their morale will increase as the siege goes on. The concern is that sometimes the computer will leave you to it if you've got a sufficiently big army sieging a castle. And if you do that, France may come down and splat us. On the other hand, France does seem pretty occupied with Austria and with the sieges going on up there, and every month our morale is going to increase, and we can always run away if we see them nearby. And in many ways this is a good castle to siege, but with an army this size I would really, once the morale's up, rather be actually attacking France if we can, especially stopping them from stomping on Austria. Oh, got 100 administrative power, so let's just boost stability. We can summon the Diet again in November 1449, so a bit to go. Just might be useful. Amazingly, we're actually still making money, which does surprise me. I thought this mercenary army, being the biggest one, would send us heavily into debt. I mean, on the plus side, they make up part of our perceived army size, and of course, because our own army is so devastated, we're not actually reaching the land force limit yet. Once we do go above the land force limit, we'll probably get rid of the mercenary army, but I'm strongly suspecting that France will be done for by then. Okay, this is very unwelcome, but I don't think we can afford not to try to stop them. I'm deeply worried about Austria. They're getting heavily attacked. I will probably go and help. Well, I might end these sieges first, but I actually need to finish my own siege before I can go and help. It's probably put paid to any chance of Switzerland pulling out, and unfortunately it means there's a good chance of Austria pulling out, which is not what we need. Seriously, Austria, stop losing. Is there any chance that we can actually get there now that our morale's up to scratch? I mean, it looks like Portugal will hopefully carry on with the siege. I'm just thinking if we can get there before we lose those castles, it'll save us having to spend ages sieging them again. one's closest to falling? We are going for the right one then. That's a good sign, they're actually running away. So not only will this stop the sieges and seriously set France back, it will also do a lot of damage to their manpower. Hopefully. Okay, let's head in for Calais and incidentally attack the French army while we're at it. That's good. Got some diplomats back. So this is a bit more like it. So yeah, if in doubt, hire the largest mercenary army you can find. Especially if your own army has been destroyed. While we're at it, I'm going to purchase some cavalry. I'm going to risk building one in Sussex. Click the flag to get back to the usual map. That's really good actually. We've just come in and basically devastated the French forces. I would love to go and help Austria now. The thing that worries me is whether they might immediately pull out of the war if I do, but let's go and try and help them anyway. Oh, they're on low. No, they're going to pull out anyway. Let's go for Chartres. It's not good that I'm moving back and forth and wasting time, but I don't believe for a second that Austria isn't going to pull out of the war. Any second now. Right, we've got some diplomats back, so the first thing I want to do is improve relations with the Papal States, because we saw what happened to Provence. So even though they like us quite a bit, let's improve anyway. The second thing is, if we do somehow succeed in subjugating France, we're going to be an object of concern to all the nearby nations. So I'm going to start making friends with them. So let's do Savoy. Not making alliances because we can't afford the diplomatic power hit. I'm assuming our allies will be okay with us subjugating France. Because, you know, we're allies. Surely they've nothing to fear. Well, okay, they probably won't be, but we're already got pretty good relations with them. So I'm going to risk not improving relations with them any further. And instead we're going to focus on the surrounding nations, who at the moment are neutral, but are probably going to get... There you see, this is why we don't want to be excommunicated. Gives people a reason to attack us. So Austria's pulled out, which was expected. Now once Chartres falls, we might want to go and help Castile and Portugal, because we don't want them to pull out as well. If one of them does, and we have a positive war score, we might want to consider making peace. On the plus side, Portugal's actually come up and sieged Paris, so we could actually help Portugal without having to move too far. Or leave our initial goal of taking Paris back. Unfortunately, the army down there is making headway. So it might be worth us going down there just to swat them. If we can. A lot of little armies there. Just need Chartres to fall. Military access from the Papal State, very happily. Tend to accept military access requests anyway. Yeah, unfortunately they've been chased off all the sieges they were doing. What are you doing? Just gonna get yourself killed. Okay, this is good. Provence is no longer a valid rival for England. What this means is we've basically eclipsed them. We've got sufficiently powerful and they've got sufficiently weak that we aren't considered a valid ally anymore. Not ally, rival. So I kind of expected that. It's why it's worth rivaling countries that are quite weak. even if you don't plan to fight them. What it's basically done is given us plus 10 power projection. So it will wear off, but in the meantime it's a good thing. So just coming down now to help, hopefully help Castile. Hopefully they're not going to leave us to do it on our own. No, that's good. So we are helping them. We could even, actually, thinking about it, if they'll let us, we can actually attach to them. So these are two options I haven't looked at yet. You can attach to another army to basically add your army's power to theirs. And you can also allow other armies, friendly armies, to attach to you. Either way, that basically makes one huge army. The difference is who's in control. So in this case, I've let Castile take control. I may detach if they start doing something stupid, but at the moment they're happily going around mopping up French armies, which is exactly what I want them to do. So that's perfect. Let's just see if Switzerland will make peace. They will not. No chance. I didn't think it was likely once Austria pulled out. But yeah, this is actually perfect. Castile are doing exactly what I would do, so I don't particularly mind them having control. We have another free diplomat. Admittedly, we might want to save that for making peace in a hurry. But just in case, let's start improving relations with Milan. The question is whether this will be enough to stop Castile from pulling out of a war. So I mean, if Castile are doing sensible things, sieging provinces, sticking with the sieges, taking them, fighting French armies, then there's no reason for us to detach from them. If on the other hand they start doing something stupid, we might want to pull our army away, but certainly at the moment we basically handed Castile an incredibly powerful army, which is great because they're kicking France all over the place. Definitely what we want. So sometimes it's worth doing. I mean, we could have selected allow armies to attach and hope that they will do it with us, but if we attach to them, we know they'll accept that. Okay, the Renaissance. This is the first of what they call institutions. We will get these periodically throughout the game as time goes on. They're basically all to do with new technologies, and we haven't really covered that because we've been too busy throwing everything we have into France and basically screwing ourselves over in order to somehow subjugate France. But we will look into technologies. Basically, the institution will start in a province somewhere in the world. The Renaissance almost always starts in an Italian nation, and there's a big bonus to monarch points. I think it's 100 in each category for whichever nation owns the province it starts in. So we will look at ways to make ourselves more likely to start some of them, but if you're not Italy, you don't have much chance with the Renaissance, so we haven't bothered yet. From the province it begins in, it will start to spread out to the rest of the world automatically. The closer you are to its starting position, the better, a lot of the time. But there are ways you can actually trigger it to begin in a province, even if you're nowhere near them, which we will look at later. Okay, so once it started spreading in some provinces in our country, we will at some point gain the ability to embrace it, as they call it, which will cost money. It'll cost more money the less prevalent it is in our country, so the more we can spread it, the cheaper we can get it. To start with, it'll cost a lot of money, like thousands of ducats. And we got 11, so not in a big hurry to buy it right now. Not that we could anyway, because we don't have it anywhere, I suspect. Until we do embrace it, we will start receiving an ever-increasing penalty to our technology, to our ability to increasing technology. So it is quite important, just not right now. Right now we're far more concerned about subjugating France. Let's move this army across and possibly build some more troops. I'm not sure if are we losing money? We are. Okay, well that was inevitable. Oh, didn't actually mean to pause then. I was just going to work out what our army was doing. And it would appear that he's sieging Paris, which is fantastic. And is definitely what we want. I'm almost tempted to detach them. Just to ensure that Castile doesn't muck it up. Yeah, gonna detach. Okay, so that's basically, not that I don't want to still help Castile, but I really want to, hang on a minute, I don't want to siege you, I want to siege Paris. I really want to take Paris, so I'm going to ignore that siege and go on to Paris. I felt confused, I was like, this is in the wrong colour. Clearly this war has been going on too long. But yeah, if we're going to siege anywhere, let's siege Paris. So at the moment we have an advantage. I don't know if we'll still have it if Castile pulls out. We might, because all of the areas they've taken are listed as being taken by England. So we're probably getting a little bit more complicated than I like to get, but I'm going to show you this anyway. If we right-click France to go to the diplomacy screen, it does actually tell us the size of their army. And you can see that we have really torn their army down. We've done a really good job here, or we've been really lucky, one of the two. And between us and Castile, we have just completely crushed their army this time. So their army's in the same position as ours, except we've of course got a very big mercenary army. Now it's possible France will do likewise, but at the moment we seem to be having it all our own way, so I'm hoping that detaching from Castile is not a bad thing, because we should be able to stomp all over them. So even though Castile isn't very enthusiastic about the war, no, can't get Switzerland to pull out. This is actually looking hopeful. Okay, we just took a, this is the reason you have to watch your loans. When you run out of money, it takes a loan automatically, so we've now gone up to 5 loans. I'm just going to hire 3 more infantry, which is good. Did that just in time, because we've just got a random event that's made our troops cost more. Not necessarily going to stop us from getting more. So this alert, this is to do with the Lollards. It warns you that you're close to an uprising. This one basically says that there is unrest, which you'll get a lot of the time, but this one basically says this is looking bad. There could be an uprising any minute. Usually it won't actually happen until this has reached 90. Looks like the uprising is only going to be 9,000 troops, but we're only going to have 8,000 even once we get our new men, so still going to be tricky, and it could arise in 6 provinces. Fortunately, none of them are Kent or even London, so we will have time to prepare. War exhaustion is still going up. I don't want to spend diplomatic power to reduce it, because diplomatic power is still very valuable, and it will reduce itself once the war's over. And honestly, with the state of the French army, I'm hoping that we're going to be gaining war score pretty rapidly now. Paris falling will improve things a lot, but we can also join in on sieges. Also, it's worth bearing in mind, you don't notice this as much with enemy countries, but you notice a lot with your own. The more provinces you lose, the less money you have coming in. Basically, you lose all the resources in that province. I don't think we necessarily gain them. We do gain some money while we're attacking them. Okay, this is unfortunate. Just difficulties. Okay, so that's Gloucester. I don't know what the cultural differences in Gloucester are. I think we'd be better off lowering taxes at the moment. We've got enough risk of unrest, frankly. Okay, so the local autonomy, basically It's something that can go up and down. We get more taxes and benefits from an area if they've got lower autonomy, so we're going to get less benefits from Gloucester, but it is only one province and an uprising would have far more effect. So it's probably, especially at the moment, safer to just lower taxes there and give them some more autonomy, give them what they want basically. Okay, let's pause because I think we've had an uprising. Lost an advisor, that's fine. Lollard heretics have risen up in Lancashire. And Britain have declared war. Witness again the dangers of being excommunicated. Right, so can build some more troops in London. Have to be very careful about attacking the Lollards. It's not great news because obviously we're going to lose some provinces, but at the same time might be worth waiting until the war's over before we go and deal with them. Seeing as they've already risen up and the Lollard heretics were the thing I was avoiding London for, we can now sit in London. It'll be a bit safer, but at the moment we're probably better off letting them take some lands while we build up our army and deal with France. Oh. Lost an advisor. It is a diplomatic advisor though, so I'm inclined to leave it for now. We don't urgently need them. Yeah, so we've lost Lancashire. That increases their autonomy even once we take it back. Burghers request privileges. Okay, so we can grant them, which will upset the nobility and that will lose its administrative power. Or we can refuse them, which will upset the burghers and help the nobility, and we will lose diplomatic. I think we should deny them. We do need the nobility during a war. This will cost us money, I think, but they won't be under 30% for long. So we can actually see this on our estate screen. We've got a few drawbacks, but they will recover. And we will gain more manpower, which we do desperately need at the moment. So a lot of the time at war it's best to keep the nobility happy. Yeah, the Lollards are going to be taking over a load of our country. Military access, usually okay to grant that. Not too worried. Right, we have won the siege of Paris. So where do we want to go next? We have actually reached 49%. So I'm thinking let's go down and help our allies. We will join in with one of their sieges, if we can, after hopefully helping to stamp out the enemy. Okay, now this is interesting. This is one you have to be very careful of. If you choose let her rule when you have subjugated France, you will instantly lose them. They'll go into rebellion and you will have to take them again. I'm not sure what will happen if we let her rule now. So while I'm tempted to do it, I'm not going to risk it. She'd be a much better ruler. She would also keep France much happier. But I think I will instead take the extra monarch points and have her as an advisor. It would be great if we could actually hire her, but I don't know if we'll be able to afford her. But that has given us a boost to our monarch points, which is great. Right, I'm going to join in this siege because it doesn't look like they need us to stamp anyone out. I think we only need to get to 60. So they're trying to retake Paris now. And I don't dare leave this siege. Because if we leave the siege, we'll lose all the progress we made. That's assuming we didn't just lose all the progress we'd made. I hope we didn't. On the plus side, it looks like Castile's going up to deal with them. And they probably can. So if we stick with this siege, hopefully everything will be fine. Need to keep an eye on our war score as well. We've got to remember that we don't actually want to damage France more than we have to, because they're hopefully going to be our subject. So once it's 60, I'm going to free up a diplomat and start looking at what we need to make peace. And then it'll be time for the next stage, keeping France, which is even more difficult. I'd generally argue that taking France is quite easy these days, although it hasn't been this time, so maybe not. As keeping France is appallingly hard. In fact, the way things are going, I think I'm going to probably recover the diplomat from the Papal State. Improved relations was plus 70, so there was plus 30 still to go. Oh, didn't mean to pause. I just think we're so close to 60 now. So if you hang on longer, because obviously once you've reached 60 you're generally looking at having pretty much completely crushed France. So you could hold on until you're on like 99 or 100%, and what you'd find is that a suggested claim would probably give you natural things like this. You see Armagnac, they're offering us Armagnac as our own province as opposed to under France. The thing is, I'm not inclined to do that in some ways because it's going to make things worse with the other nations. However, I am going to accept this one because I just can't resist. Okay, so that's good. So Armagnac was seized, Armagnac to England, and England and France will form a union with Henry VI Lancaster becoming king over both nations. I'm going to send demand, they're going to accept, and we've done it. The war is over. Finally. Okay, so we have fulfilled this mission. It's the end of Ichel's mission tree. Henry actually gains some abilities, amazingly. We gain 25 prestige, but we'd already gained so many prestige for taking France that it's not that big a deal. Victor's concession, manpower, recovery speed, liberty desire in same continent subjects. Okay. And the one thing I am going to do before we do anything else is I'm going to send a diplomat to improve relations with France. No, I'm not, because it won't let me until the 13th of October. Okay, right. So I am going to pause there. The reason is that the next stage is going to be quite complicated. Because, yeah, so there's going to be a lot of explanation to go on. It's going to kick off almost immediately. We may hold on to these mercenaries because it's very important that we appear powerful, but I don't want to start explaining it this session because this session was mostly revolving around actually taking France. So even though it's not the longest session ever, we've successfully taken them. There's a lot of work to do to hold as much of France as we can. I'm not expecting to keep all of it, although it'd be fantastic if we could. But we are going to go into how to do that, how to try to do that next time. For now, we've achieved our goal. I was seriously worried we weren't going to for a while there. And we're going to be working on rebuilding. Getting rid of the Lollards and rebuilding our army, getting rid of the mercenaries and trying to pay off our loans. while also, if possible, holding on to as much France as we can. It's going to take some doing, but for now, the reason I was going to send a diplomat to France incidentally is that France, not surprisingly, is very upset at us. So the first thing we need to do urgently is get them to like us, because at the moment, if our king Henry VIII dies, he's only 29, so hopefully he won't. Henry VIII, Henry VI, France will instantly go into rebellion and we will have to do this all over again. There's nothing we can do about it if it happens. We'll just have to lump it. Might be worth holding the mercenaries until then, but hopefully we can get our allies to join in again and France will still be weakened. But the faster we can get France to have a positive opinion of us, the better. So that's going to be our first port of call, that and dealing with the Lollards. But we will deal with all of that next time. Thank you for watching. Should reiterate, it wouldn't have been the end of the world if we'd failed. We would have tried to make a white peace, or maybe just take Armagnac. But I'm very pleased that we've at least taken it, because it theoretically is possible. You just keep in mind everything I said about what I could have done better in the first half in last session, and keep in mind what we did this session with really pushing it out for the mercenaries. It does make us precarious having 5 loans, but 5 isn't too bad. We just need to get to a point where we're making money, whatever that takes. We will look at whatever that's going to take. We will have to ditch the mercenaries because they're going to be costing us a bomb, but at the same time we want to be as powerful as possible to put other nations off attacking us, which is a very real possibility. But we will get into that next time. I will stop preempting. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you then.